This month, we're going to cover exactly what you need to craft a personal brand that will inspire people to work with you year after year. I call this module Brand New You. While your topic or what you do will change and evolve as you continue in business and the needs of the marketplace shift, who you are at your core stays constant. If you define and build your personal brand now, you'll be able to take it with you to other topics and businesses in the future. If you build solid relationships with your audience, many of them will continue to follow you throughout your career. You are the through line of your work, which is why we're covering your personal brand before we dive into the larger business brand next month with topics such as company name, URL, tagline, logo, colors, and fonts. If your business brand isn't in sync with who you are, your audience will pick up on the disconnect and you'll feel trapped in a business that doesn't align with your values. Your personal brand gives you the freedom to consciously craft your career and continue to evolve it as you go. But beware, if you focus on building your company brand without taking the time to define yourself and build personal relationships with your audience, you might find yourself pigeonholed or stuck in a niche. If your reputation is dependent on a particular business and you decide to change your industry, topic, or area of expertise later, it becomes more difficult to take your audience with you. But if you build deep relationships based on your personal values, story, and personality, your audience will follow you wherever you want to go as long as you maintain a consistent personal brand, which should be easy if you implement what I'm about to teach you. This month's challenge is jam-packed with everything you need to define your personal brand. But before we dive in, I wanted to take a moment to talk about what your personal brand is and the number one misconception about branding that prevents people from becoming a leading expert, coach, or entrepreneur. Your personal brand is the first impression you make when you walk into a room, write an email, or show up on camera. It's also the second impression, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and every single impression you make every day. The key to branding is making a consistent impression. And the way you do that is by being incredibly clear about who you are and what you're doing in the marketplace. Then maintaining that clarity across everything you do, both in the physical content and collateral you produce, and in the way you show up and interact in the world. In this module, we're going to reveal both the subjective attributes that make you who you are, your core values, and your 6-word standard, as well as how to represent these attributes and differentiate yourself through your title, your physical appearance, style or wardrobe, your signature photo, and your personal story. This module is based on a series of practical exercises, so you may want to download the worksheet on defining the key elements of your personal brand so you can follow along more easily. Like it or not, the world judges you within 3 seconds of meeting you, coming to your website, or watching those first few frames of video. In just 3 seconds, they decide whether they're going to stick around and engage with you or take off and never come back. If you don't capture someone's attention in that tiny window of time, you've lost a critical opportunity. That person could have become your most lucrative customer, your best success story, a high-profile media appearance, a joint venture partnership that gives you exposure to 20,000 new prospects. You name it. You never know who is going to find you and where they'll first encounter you. So it's mission critical to present a conscious and consistent face to the world, enabling you to transform first impressions into lasting relationships. I remember learning this lesson in real life. The very first time I put on makeup, I was in my 20s. I went to work for a portrait photographer who made millions of dollars every single year, taking photos of families and children against these beautiful painted backdrops. My contract specified I had to wear makeup, but I had never worn makeup before. As a smart, overeducated woman who wanted to be seen for her brains and talents, not her face and body, I was kind of opposed to the whole thing. I told my boss, "Hey dude, I've never worn makeup in my life, and even if I had makeup, I wouldn't know what to do with it." So he brought me down to the department store and sat me at the clearance table. A woman with bright red hair and a lot of eyeshadow proceeded to cake my face with foundation and blush and the whole 9 yards. I felt myself cringing and asked, "What's going on here?" He told me that we were in the business of representing people's identities. And if we didn't look the part, They weren't going to trust us to help them with their image, and they definitely weren't going to invest the premium fees he commanded. At that moment, I realized I wasn't taking responsibility for my image and the way I presented myself to the world because of a knee-jerk reaction of wanting to be seen for who I really was. Of course, I'm more than just the clothes, the mask, and the facade, but the irony is that I wasn't giving people the opportunity to experience me because I was turning them off before I could turn them on. If you captivate, inspire, and intrigue your audience in those first few seconds, they'll listen to what you have to say and take the time to get to know, like, and trust you. Everyone is looking for an excuse to tune out and ignore their problems for another day. Your job is to give them a reason to keep listening and ultimately to do something about it by buying the solutions you offer. Think of your personal brand image as the doorway that allows people to enter your world. That door has to differentiate you, and it also has to match the tone and topic of your work. Think about it. You're walking down a busy New York City street, and there are doorways all around you. You want to buy a new suit to wine and dine a high-profile prospect that night, and you're looking for cues to let you know you're in the right place. Most likely, you'd be on the lookout for an impressive storefront featuring designer suits on display, not an unmarked wooden door. In the same way, if there's a mismatch between your personal image and the expectations of your audience, they're not going to stick around if they notice you in the first place. Now, I'm not suggesting you be something that you're not because you're going to exhaust yourself trying to maintain an image that isn't you. And people are smart enough to sniff out a fake. But it does mean stepping into and sharing the best version of yourself and that part of you that's uniquely you. Let's take an example from the entertainment world. Leonard Cohen wasn't always Leonard Cohen. When he first got started as a young singer-songwriter, he consciously tried to make music that people would like, music that would sell. Then one day he asked his Zen Buddhist teacher what he thought. His teacher said, "Leonard, you should sing more sad." That was the best advice he ever got about his music. This sad quality that was always there, rumbling along as an undercurrent. But he kept it under wraps, thinking it would scare people away. He was wrong. This sadness was the core of his voice, his sound, his personal brand. And as soon as he embraced that distinct part of himself, his career took off. By identifying the feeling tone of his brand, or what made him different, Leonard Cohen was able to build a die-hard audience and create a successful career for himself. Now, you may be asking yourself, isn't this a little self-centered and narcissistic? If my message is bigger than me, why should I be focusing on myself? Shouldn't my brand be more about community than personal celebrity? More about substance than style? Herein lies the biggest misconception about branding that prevents people from succeeding in the expert space. Whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, a rock star or a librarian, you matter. Your work exists in a value, not a commodity market. People choose to do business with you. You are the most important asset in your business. It's no longer enough to have great content, programs, and services. You have to build enduring relationships by telling stories and making that all-important emotional connection with your audience. Your content definitely has to be rock solid, but information alone doesn't sell regardless of how good it is. People can find content on Google free of charge. It's your personal story and how you make people feel that differentiates you and makes people buy from you. One caveat, though. We live in a social world where reputation is key. Your clients can and will Google you before they hire you, and search is becoming increasingly social. That means that Google delivers search results to you based on the people you're connected with, the people you influence, and those who influence you in turn. If you want to build an enduring personal brand, you can't get away with bad or even inconsistent behavior. If you've handled yourself without integrity, people will find out. There are dozens of examples of personal reputation skidding off the tracks in the celebrity world. From Charlie Sheen being caught drunk and raging on camera to Lindsay Lohan passed out in the back of a car. But there are also examples in the guru space, such as the James Arthur Ray Sweat Lodge incident. Granted, these are extreme scenarios, But it's important to remember that people notice what you're up to, and they talk to each other. That's why it's so important to define how you want to appear, rather than leaving your reputation to a handful of chance encounters that might not show you in the best light. I don't mean to scare you. No one's perfect, we all make mistakes, and everyone is caught off guard from time to time. Often these mistakes make us more likable and more human if you're honest and transparent about them. Trendwatching.com identifies being flawsome as one of the top brand trends of 2012. That means it's not just okay to be human and show your flaws, but desirable, likable. Message expert Joel Roberts says that your power as a communicator is a balance between your expertise and your humanity, your head and your heart.